I've always been the kind of person who does not pay attention to what they're supposed to pay attention to when they're supposed to pay attention to it. But I always look like I'm paying attention on the surface. And this lack of paying attention properly has caused me a lot of trouble in my life. It has caused me to lose things a lot. I remember like that's my some of my earliest memories in school, like in nursery school. Like I would my earring was always getting lost. I felt like my mom was always giving me a new pair of earrings every single day. And it wasn't like both earrings would get lost. It's only one ear that would get lost. From earrings to pencils, that losing things it followed me up to adulthood. Although as I grew older, especially going to boarding school and all of that, I've developed certain coping strategies to help me not lose things. Because I remember when I first went to boarding school, oh my god, within the first week, I lost my keys. I was always losing my keys. And I remember the keys in particular, not because that was the only thing I was losing, but because just last month I nearly lost my key also. And the only reason I did not lose it was because of the somewhat compulsive body checks that I do now. I don't know if you're compulsive, but I tend to do body checks, and I think it's one of those coping strategies that I've developed for not for my issue with paying attention. The body checks are just things that I do automatically just to help me return to myself and to help me become aware of myself wherever I am, because part of not paying attention is that I just lose, I forget where I am, I forget myself, and my mind travels. And before I come back to myself, things would have happened. I was sitting in a vehicle, and the key had dropped from my finger because it was a key ring. I held it in my finger thinking nothing would happen to it. And that dropped from my finger onto my lap, and I did not know. So as I did that body check, I just saw that I was like, oh my god, where's my key? And then I started panicking because I could not find it. It wasn't on my hand, it wasn't in my bag, it wasn't anywhere. I was panicking, and I moved my legs, and then I heard the clink of it as it dropped to the ground. And that was when I felt relieved. And then I quickly found a way to bend and pick up the key. And this time around, I put it in my bag. This is why I always put things in my bag. Because if I hold it in my hand, there's a likelihood that it will fall down and I would not know. I will lose it somewhere and I won't know. And I remember that when I was about nine, because that was when I entered boarding school. I was about 9 years old. It was about 3 months to my 10th year birthday. And I remember this because I I was walking one day, and even if if you struggle with that inattentiveness, if you struggle with having your mind travel, you could be walking with someone coming in the opposite direction, coming towards you, and you will not even see them. You will not know that they are coming towards you. You could be looking at them straight like this. They could be talking to you, they could be waving to you, you might not know. Except maybe if they call out your name, suddenly then you come back to yourself. But generally your mind would have gone, elsewhere. This was what was happening to me that day. Except that this time around the person was behind me. They were not in front of me. So please, somebody how was I supposed to know somebody was behind me when sometimes people will be in front of me and I cannot even tell that somebody's coming in my direction that I'm supposed to know. So this person was coming behind me, and she was the house mistress. And I was just walking on my way from class, from school area to the hostel, and my mind was in a different world. And I think that time my mind was always in a different world most of the time, because I that was one of the ways I could cope with the trauma of being in boarding school, especially that type of boarding school. That was one of the ways my mind could cope with it. It's by just escaping every chance it got. So I was walking, and I wasn't walking with any friend or anything. And because I just barely resumed. I think I just spent maybe like a week or two there, and all of a sudden I just felt this slap. This man slapped me on the side of my face from behind. I was so shocked. I can't even call it a rude awakening, because like I can't even find a way to joke about this. It was so shocking. It was so shocking and so painful, because I was in my own world and I was rudely yanked and painfully brought back And I did not even see the person who did it. And then I turned around and she was like, You've been ignoring me and you cannot greet. You are disrespectful and rude." She just said all those sorts of things, basically saying that I knew that she was behind me and I deliberately did not turn around to greet her. Some things about this African culture are nice, and some things about this African culture are whack. I'm just going to say that. And I don't I think I was crying, but like it was hot tears that refused to come out and then came out all of a sudden. But I could not see anything. I just held my face and stood there till she walked past and all of that. And with experiences like that, you expect you wonder why people have trouble with social interactions. Like this is part of, I've said something about social interactions in a different video. This is one of those things that gives me trouble with social interactions because you just cannot get it right. No matter what you do, you cannot get it right. And I'm not going to blame my neurodivergence for the fact that I don't pay attention sometimes or that I get lost in my head. My psyche, my brain, my nervous system is trying to protect me. It's always trying to protect me. So because I'm in a world that is difficult to understand. I'm in a world I feel like if I know it's a cliche thing, but sometimes I feel like it would be better. It would have been better if I was like a volcan. If you know Star Trek, I feel like it would have been better if I was a volcan. Like I can understand life on Vulcan with other Vulcans. I can understand that. And I think that's one of the reasons I've always identified so strongly with the Vulcan character in any Star Trek movie. Yes, maybe you can tell by now, Star Trek is one of my special interests. I think that's why, like, I've always, like, my favorite character is always Vulcan. And there's a reason for that. I think it's because the Vulcan character portrays the autistic neurodivergent character so well, so accurately, for you to feel things deeply, deeply, so much so that the feelings can overwhelm you and you've grown and you've adapted, your species or your race has grown and adapted to hide the feelings in order to control them. It's not so much to hide them or suppress them, so much as you're trying to control them so that they do not control you. And while you're doing that, other people see you from the outside and they see you as cold or unfeeling or lacking in emotion. But that's not true because you feel. Sometimes I think it would have been it would have been more appropriate for me to be a Vulcan and be from Vulcan home planet and just like be among them. I know it's like a whole stereotype thing where people are always like, yeah, I feel like an alien. It still happens to me up till now. I still walk on the street in my mind in a different planet, on a different planet. I still, sit down in a place with my head in the clouds. And yeah, people cannot understand that. And I don't think they will ever understand that. And I've just decided to accept that in myself.